Welcome to Fantasy Fanline.
What is up, everybody? We are Fantasy Fanline. We are back in action. What a week of football, ladies and gentlemen, including those New York Giants, baby. I told you I wouldn't wear the hat until we got a win, and we got that dub. Shout out Tyrod Taylor, Saquon, the defense holding it down. Um, Sinker, your team had a win. I mean, I know you're more used to it than I am at the moment, but a huge win for the Chiefs. Mahomes going crazy. I'm sure we'll talk about a few Chiefs players on the show today. But how you doing, man? How you feeling after that big win?
Yeah, man, feeling good. I mean, it's always good to see the Chiefs go out there and have the offense execute like we expect with fantasy, right? So it's getting Mahomes going, getting Kelsey going, and against a divisional rival, man, I feel great. I feel it's awesome. It was good to see. Sorry, Epps, if you're watching, tough, man, but love it.
And your week just feels so much better when your NFL team gets that dub. Mondays could either be, Mondays suck no matter what, but you have a little more pep in your step coming out of that dub. I want to thank all our fans and our subscribers for tuning in. P Muggs, Jonathan, love the support. We can't thank you enough. Let's go Giants. Let's go. Just a reminder, we are a call-in show. Call us up. You're not afraid. You don't have stage fright. Give us a ring. We'll talk some football. If you do have stage fright, you can hit us in the comments. I just got back from Vegas. I'm a little jet lagged, so deal with me today. But we're rocking and rolling. We're gonna bring back an old friend of the show. You might know him as a writer for the #1 podcast in the world, the Fantasy Footballers. Huge in the industry. Marvin Elequin. What is up, Marvin? Welcome back. How are you, man?
Hey, thank you guys for having me again. This is super fun. And you guys were talking about how your team's got a win. I haven't seen a win in a while. So I'm a little jealous, excited to be here, talk some football and week 8 football. We're basically halfway through the season, which is kind of crazy to think about.
Yeah, I hope Greg's not watching because I know he would definitely type some Packers comments right now. But
Exactly.
yeah, let's get right into it. How about this mailbag question right here? Is it time to sell high on Travis Etienne or do we keep it rolling? Travis Etienne, man, he's been amazing. He's been the guy you took around Gibbs that has actually paid off, and we expected what Gibbs to do. Everyone was so hyped on Tank Bigsby, saying he's going to get goal line work. Doesn't look like it, man. It looks like Travis Etienne is a league winner. I know in fantasy football, there is a time to sell high on players, but it really all depends what you get from me. If you go look at Etienne's last 3 games, I'm not even thinking about him, trading him off my team right now. I know I'm staying in the Flames here. The running back landscape is so beat up and really sus this year to keep it honest. This guy's been consistent for you. That's fairly easy for me. The easy one right off the bat for me. But Marvin, let me get your thoughts on Travis Etienne. Are you holding him? Are you trying to get a haul for him? I guess team construction comes into play, but I would love to hear your thoughts, man.
Yeah, I think team construction definitely plays a role here. If you're deep at running back, which I doubt you are, considering all the injuries going on. Honestly, I would just keep Travis Etienne. I mean, you look at his numbers, it's been pretty impressive, right? 35% opportunity share, 64% route participation, 15.5 expected points. So that's his usage value right there. That's all RB1, within RB1 range. Those are things that we love to see. And you talk a little bit about the goal line work, right? Over the last few weeks, he's accounted for 100% of their rushing attempts inside the 5. So we were worried about that with a little bit with Tank Bigsby coming in, but he's been the guy in all areas of the offense. And one thing to keep in mind too is they have the 6th easiest schedule for the fantasy playoffs for the running back position. So if you hold on to him now, I think it could really pay off in the fantasy playoffs. And he's just getting that high usage. It's hard to trade that way considering all the running backs that are going down. And if he stays healthy, he's probably a league winner for you going forward.
for sure. They're RB3, the number 11th player overall. Um, I'm keeping him. Sinker, you agree with us here? Anything you want to add on the ETN train? I know it was a guy you weren't too high on him coming into the draft, right?
Yeah, he was a fade for me, unfortunately. I'm taking an L on that one, but my concerns with him was, I didn't think he was going to get the goal line work. I think that's why they drafted, Bigsby. And I was a little concerned with the pass work that he was going to get. I thought Bigsby would fill in that role. But through 7 weeks of the season, man, we're seeing that, what they're getting out of ETN they like, and they're going to keep just, feeding him the ball and then utilizing him in that sense. The only thing I did want to note is Doug Peterson, after the game this week, he did mention, so, ETN's getting, I think he's one of the top 3. He's getting the most carries per running back in the league. I think it's just CMC's above him. But so Doug Peterson was mentioning he wants to get Tank Bigsby going again. He wants to start getting other touches. He just wants to make sure that they have ETN for the long run. It could be coach speak. It could just been, the way he was questioned, the way he was asked, but just something to note on that. As far as selling high, I'm not selling Travis Etienne. If anything, I'm trying to go get him. Probably not going to be able to get him. The dude who has him is not going to sell him. But yeah, I mean, Etienne wheels up, man. He's a league winner.
He's crushing it right now, and I don't know if I believe too much in that coach speak. You're trying to go out there and win the game, and I think Travis Etienne is the best back to have in your backfield to do so. P Muggs chiming in. One name I gotta say, Jordan Addison. Yeah, how about that game from Addison? I remember we told you to start him, and then he had a goose egg. I hope you trusted the process and kept him in your lineup after the goose egg, and it looks like you did because you're taking a little victory lap right now. Jonathan with the question: Jimmy G or Hal in Superflex? Gross.
Super easy. I'd go Hal. I don't know, man. I think that the Raiders offense is awful. I don't think Jimmy G is going to save him. I think it's utilization of the way they're doing it. It's Hal for me, even though he's getting sacked a ton. I just think that offense is more efficient right now.
Yeah, Jimmy G, a night game in Detroit, 45.5 over under. And Hal with the divisional game, I believe, against Philly. Trying to look that, against Philadelphia. Yeah. What's the over under on that game? 43.5, couple. It's a division game. Anything can happen in those games. Man. Jimmy G has Devontae Adams. That's where I'm kind of on the fence. I'm not like, it's ugly. This is an ugly situation, man. Sam Howell, Washington scored 1 touchdown against my Giants, man. Give me Jimmy G. I'll disagree with you, Sinker, for some content here. See who has the better week, and we'll pass the icebreaker to Marvin.
Yeah, I might agree with Sinker here. Is that I do like the matchup there with Philly. I think it should be another situation where they're going to play from behind, right? And what's interesting is the Washington, the Commanders, almost couldn't think of their name. They're Commanders. They're one of the most pass-heavy teams. They average, I believe, top 5 in pass rate over expected. They love to throw the ball, and while Sam Howell's not necessarily the most accurate quarterback out there, the more opportunities they gets to throw the ball, the more opportunities there are to score touchdowns, to potentially have those deep shots. To honestly, a really good receiving group too. Give me that over Jimmy G, who's just a little bit more turnover prone this year. I just I'm not a huge believer in that offense, honestly. And even though they have, honestly, some of the best weapons, it's just been tough to trust Jimmy G and the Raiders.
Yeah, completely fair. This is gross. Jonathan chimes in again. It's getting ugly. Yeah, but, super flex leagues get like that sometimes, and that's just the way it is. So, you heard it here first. How's the start? I'm the idiot. We'll see. That's why we do this thing. We have a start 2 question from P Mugs. Lamb, Olave, Rice. I'm assuming Rashee Rice or Devontae Smith. You have to keep your eye on that Olave situation. I think he's still going to play. Probably get a pretty hefty fine. You have to start 2. We'll talk about Devontae Smith a little later. One of my guys. He hasn't been playing too well. I think I'm starting Lamb and Olave. Personally, I'm never benching CeeDee Lamb, and Olave's been getting going. Just looking at this, let me check some matchups real quick. Sinker, you want You want to help P Mugs out with it? You have great receivers, but you only
Yeah.
have to start two.
I mean, obviously Lamb is locked in, right? He's an everyday start. If you have him, you're going to plug him in.
Sure.
Just monitor the Olave stuff. Which I think he's still going to go. It's just a speeding ticket. The video got leaked. He was cooperative. He didn't do anything bad. I don't see any reason why he's not going to go. So I think Rashee Rice is a great guy to have on your team, but I think hold on to him for a little bit. I think we're going to just keep seeing a little bit more, target share, a little bit more snap count. But right now it's Lamb and Olave for me. Devontae Smith, until we see something, I think, you're lucky you have the ability to keep him on your bench. But until we see something, you kind of have to just play the guys that you got. So I'm going Lamb, Olave.
Yeah, I can't bench Devontae Smith.
It's one of those things.
Yeah.
And I don't want to. I think he's going to get going. I truly do. He's my guy. Maybe I'm biased, but, I think he's going to get going. But I can't bench Lamb or Olave right now. I agree with you on the Rice target share going up and up. He could be a league-winning breakout towards the end of the year and in your playoffs. But definitely not playing him over any three guys, to be honest. I won't even play him over Devontae Smith right now. Marvin, who are you taking out of these four receivers?
Yeah, I gotta agree with you guys, and I think it's Lamb and then Olave. I think Olave still plays, like you guys said, so it's a pretty easy decision for those two guys. If Olave does sit, it gets a little more difficult here. I still lean Devontae Smith because the volume has been there, the production just hasn't. Whereas Rice, it's kind of been up and down. As much as I like Rice as a prospect, it's still Travis Kelce's offense there. Devontae Smith has gotten decent volume. It just hasn't translated to fancy points yet. And I know we'll talk about him later, but hopefully Olave just plays and it's an easy decision from there.
Yeah.
There you go. Lamb and Olave, clean sweep. What were you saying, Sinker? I'm sorry.
I just said chase the volume, just agreeing with Marvin.
For sure.
100%.
We got another question rolling in. Is Deontay Johnson going to be the wide receiver 2 following Pickens on the Steelers? How do you guys feel? Yeah, it kind of has to be, right? Or if he doesn't come back into the 1 role, I don't think anyone else is gonna step up there. I think it's Pickens, Deontay, everyone else. I think we could all agree on that one and keep that short and sweet. Thumbs up, guys. Pick
for sure.
I mean, I don't know, man. I love Devontae Johnson, so I don't know if this is just the bias in me, but I don't know if he's going to necessarily be the 2. I think it's more of a 1A, 1B. Deontay, once he gets going again, that was his first game back from injury. This guy's going to demand targets. So I wouldn't necessarily put him as is he the wide receiver 2 after Pickens? I still think it's a 1A, 1B type situation. I don't know. We'll see moving forward. But if I have Deontay Johnson, I'm feeling pretty good about it moving forward.
Yeah. I like the way you put that in that it's really, it doesn't necessarily matter all that much. I think both will be productive. You saw the numbers they put up in week 7.
Yeah.
Really solid, volume there. So I think you'll feel good about either one of them. And they're both at least flex receivers, if not even better than that.
For sure.
For sure. There's definitely a nice ceiling there with either one of those players. All right, let's talk about one of my guys. Not my guy, but a New York Giant. We get more games like this out of Darren Waller. Finally, Darren Waller. Took 7 weeks to catch a touchdown, but you did. 8 receptions, 8 targets, 7 receptions, 98 yards, 12.25 per target. Monster game. That's an advantage at the tight end spot unless we're against Kelce. Over 20 points. The targets have been there for Waller all year. It's just our line has been so bad that we can't even get the ball. We can't get the ball out quick. Kind of held up this game. I could definitely see more games like this moving forward. You drafted Waller early. I don't think it's going to pay off for where you took him, but you do love to see this week 7. Maybe it's a sign of good things to come, and I truly believe there are brighter days ahead. Tyrod Taylor running the offense. I don't even know if we could put Jones back in right now if we're winning games. We'll see how that goes. But, yeah, you drafted Darren Waller early. There's definitely going to be some more games like this. It's not like you're going to put him on your bench unless you were fortunate enough unless you took 2 tight ends like a Sam Laporta dart throw. You just got really lucky. But, Darren Waller's in your lineup every week, and there's going to be more games like this. And it looked great. This was the Darren Waller. as a fantasy player I wanted to see, and as a Giants fan I wanted to see. So let's keep that rolling, Darren. Marvin, anything you want to add about Darren Waller? Do you have any of him in any of your leagues this year? Or?
Yeah, I actually don't, which is kind of unfortunate. I think it was because the price was just a little too high by the time we got to like the end of draft season. But I do think, like you said, that things are looking up. The targets were there, the routes are there, the volume is all there, and we talked about how you want to follow the volume, right? He's the tight end for an expected fantasy points, so the volume and usage value of his opportunities are really high. I mean, he gets a bunch of targets. And I do think this matchup coming up is really good. The Jets have allowed the most fantasy points to inline tight ends or tight ends as a whole. So it's a really good matchup. And I do think with the volume, he'll have another good week. So you start him, you drafted him high. You're just going to live with the down weeks if they're there. So
fire me up, Marvin. I'll be at that game, hoping for a monster.
I love it. Yeah.
Sinker, anything to add with Darren Waller? You like him moving forward? You like what you saw Sunday?
Yeah, I mean, I think it's Darren Waller always has, the opportunity to pop like that. And really, this season, it's for him. He's been getting the targets. He's been getting some yards too. It's just a touchdown. So if the touchdowns start coming, and I don't know if it was a Tyrod Taylor type thing or what, but if they start targeting him in the red zone and he can get open, and they have been, it's just, trying to get catchable balls. He's absolutely, going to maybe not return value where you got him, but he's definitely, a tight end that's going to maybe separate you some weeks for sure. Interesting stat. So I know Sam Laporta, he's kind of cooled down a little bit, but he was, all the hype was about him. So he has 35 receptions for 377 yards on 49 targets. Waller has 35 receptions, 380 yards on 49 targets. They're basically the same guy. The only difference is Laporta's caught some touchdowns. So I think if Waller had more touchdowns up to this point, we'd be talking a lot more highly about him. So
for sure. Let's go Giants. All right, it's time to talk about the Hall of Fame. Puka Nacua, the greatest football player of all time. Have we seen enough? Can we give him his jacket? Can we put him in the Hall? This guy is so damn good, man. It was I know the game against Arizona, I told everyone, be patient. They were up all game. And, pat myself on the back because I was right. I mean, Puka Nacua, man, I don't even know what to say about him anymore. Is he he's just another Cooper Kupp out there for Stafford? The Rams are sneaky good. No, he's not the greatest football player of all time. That's a joke. But dude, if he plays like this every year and has a lengthy career, jokes aside, this could be a Hall of Fame kind of player. I know it's way too early to say that, but kid looks amazing. Pulling up his stats, another freaking monster game. 12 targets, target share. He had 93% of the snaps, 8 receptions for 154 yards. Popped off again without a touchdown. If you caught a touchdown, you're laughing to the bank. Puka Nacua, he was a late round, if not waiver wire pickup for most leagues. He's going to win you leagues, man. This guy stays healthy, he's going to win you leagues. He's going to the Hall of Fame. That's just come back in 15 years, God willing, be like, Sanchi, you were right. Puka Nacua, greatest football player of all time.
Definitely going to the Fantasy Football Hall of Fame, man, after being a waiver wire pickup. And
just for 1 year. That's all it takes. He's already a fantasy football legend. But Marvin, I'd like to hear your thoughts on Puka, what you thought about him preseason, if you even knew who he was, because I'm not going to lie, I didn't really know too much about him, but now that I got him in a few leagues, he's become one of my favorite players in the league. So fun to watch. What about you?
Yeah, I don't know if I'd crown him the greatest football player yet, but he's had an awesome season. And yeah, preseason, he was actually one of the guys that popped in kind of my evaluation process as a day 3 guy. Because one of the things we see if we look at the guys that have broken out as day 3 wide receivers, right? You think of Stephon Diggs, right? You think of Amon-Ra St. Brown, some of those other guys there that popped as late round picks. And what they all have in common, or most of them do, is that they're really productive in college. And Puka was one of those guys. Even though he dropped, the production was there. He was basically the focal point of his offense for pretty much every year. And that's a really, really solid piece in your that should stand out, right? And that's what we want to see from a day 3 guy. Chances are they're still not going to break out, right? But you grab those guys because the upside could be there. And with Puka, it just happened to work out. And I was looking at a couple of his production stats through the first several weeks here. If we take a look at over the last decade, and this list is ridiculous, the top 5 rookie receivers in points per game: Odell Beckham Jr. right then, Puka Nacua right now is number 2, Jamar Chase is 3, Justin Jefferson is 4, and Mike Evans. So among rookie receivers, he's already up there. Now, some of that is obviously inflated from the first couple weeks, but that number will come down with Kupp there. But even with Kupp in the lineup, I mean, it's 98% of the routes in 3 games with Kupp, an elite 28% targets per route run. I mean, these are all really good numbers that probably mean this is sustainable going forward. They continue to pass the ball at a high rate. I mean, I like the guy. And even if we look at beyond, like from a dynasty perspective, at this point, you kind of ignore the fact that he was a 5th-round pick when he's producing at this level, right? It's just what it is, right? Or was he a 6th-round pick? He's a day 3 guy that usually you don't invest in, but at this point, you just have to because he's been that good.
That's got to go out the window. Once you get the eye test and you see it for week after week after week, you could throw the draft capital away at this point. That guy's a baller. Sinker, one of your sell highs, not to put you on the spot, but
it was so high like 4 weeks ago. We got to bring it up every episode. But
all right, last time I'll bring it up. I just want to know if you're feeling good about it.
I'm trying to acquire Puka, man. I'm trying to go out and see if I can get someone take like Devontae Adams or like Waddle or something, man. If I can get someone to give me this guy, because I need some shares, man. I have no shares, and I just like watch him destroy me in every single league. He had a week 7, he had a 46% target share, 60% target share, 3rd and 4th down. Like that's insane. With Cooper on the team, that's insane. This guy moving forward is like, he is in the range of maybe becoming wide receiver 1, honestly, with injuries to Jefferson. And I know Tyreek's a freak, but like this dude's getting volume, man. So not the greatest football player of all time. We can't go there yet. But like I said, man, like this dude he's definitely going in like the fantasy Hall of Fame for this year. Even if next year he's like not the same dude, this dude is going to win people leagues. Absolutely. He's already gotten teams. I guarantee you, if they picked him up on waiver wire, he's gotten teams to like what? Undefeated maybe, or 1 or 2 lost teams. Like he's doing that.
Yeah, still only 94% rostered on Sleeper. For whatever reason, he's chilling in your league. Enjoy the gift. 87% started. What are you doing? Get this guy in your lineups. He's the real deal. And that's how I know you're a great fantasy football player, Sinker, because I do the same thing. You could have your takes, but you're quick to shift. That's how you stay a winner. Like, oh, that was a bad take. Whatever. Moving forward, rolling with the punches. And that's how you win. Got some chats coming in. We got Thomas Dorr. Yo, yo, yo. Yo, yo, yo. Jonathan, is Ramondre a sell high at this point? I wouldn't even consider it a sell high. He had, a couple solid games for fantasy, but I think I would dish any New England Patriot I could right now if I could get something I could get something for him. If you're hurting at running backs, probably not going to trade him. But if you're good at back and you could dish Ramondre for a solid receiver, sure. Sell high to me would be like a 25-point game, a 30-point game, which Ramondre had last year. They're just not coming. Ezekiel Elliott's feeding into that. It's a mess in New England. I know they just had a nice win against the Bills, but it's a division game, and I don't see him like catching fire or momentum personally. Could be wrong, but I don't see it. Obviously, it all comes down to your team construction, Jonathan. I'm selling Ramondre if I'm set at running back, but if not, you have to hold. You agree, Marvin?
Yeah, I don't know how much you can really get for Ramondre right now. I think you just kind of have to temper your expectations a little bit that, after last season when he was basically a running back 1 in points per game, it's not going to happen this year. And I think with Zeke there and this offense kind of struggling, it is what it is, right? And you just plug him in as more of like a flex RB2 with limited upside.
Hopefully some more. I like Ramondre.
Yeah.
I hope he finally gets going. I traded for him preseason in the Dynasty League. It's not feeling great, but it's a long season still. We have a lot of football to play. Sinker, Ramondre Stevenson. I know we were both pretty high on him, early in the year. You shifted on that one. You selling them right now, or you just gonna hold them?
I agree with Marvin and what you're saying. I don't know what you're gonna get for this guy. So like, I guess if someone's super desperate at running back, maybe it's all about roster construction too. Like, what are your wide receivers looking like? Like, what do you need? If you have the ability to move him, maybe try packaging him with someone else and trying to, do like a 2-for-1 deal to get the better player. But yeah, I mean, it's just, I was obviously wrong on Ramondre. He's not getting the work. And the Patriots are just not efficient on offense. So I just don't sell him to get anything though, right? Because it still is only week 7. A lot of things can happen. But yeah, if you could package him and move for something better, that would be enticing to me.
I was wrong on him too, and I still think he's a hell of a player. I think it was just the Patriots. They were always being down in games, and they still wouldn't throw him the ball. Like we discussed that either a couple weeks ago. Like what is up with that? But
and then they have Zeke now, just like he's starting to kind of slowly come on. He's getting the goal line stuff, so it's just like it's not looking good for Ramondre. I have him in a couple leagues, and because of waiver wire stuff, I'm able to keep him on the bench, but it sucks.
Yeah, it is what it is. We move forward, we stay strong. Speaking of moving forward and staying strong, Lou typing into us. He's 1-6. He lost to Sean Watson, Anthony Richardson, Jerome Ford, and he has underachievers like Higgins, Olave, and Christian Watson. Do I just call it quits? Bijan and JT are my best players with Ritter as my QB. Ooh, 14-team league with 7 making playoffs. Ritter as your QB. That makes my skin curl. But no, you don't call it quits, man. You don't call it quits ever. Any like respected fantasy league, you gotta play. You gotta play till the very end. Like people are gonna judge you, they're gonna talk smack to you, they're gonna threaten to kick you out of the league next year. You never call it quits. And if you know you're down and out, the one thing that's almost as good as winning, it's not winning because we all want to win. It's playing spoiler for a team that can. Mm-hmm. So take that as a little consolation prize. I know you're in multiple leagues, but we don't quit here, man. We take our L's, we take our bumps and bruises. Patch up the wound. We don't quit. 1-6. I've seen crazier things happen. Set your lineups, hawk the waiver wire, call up Fantasy Fanline, listen to fantasy footballers. Do not call it quits, man. That's all I'm saying. Marvin, you calling it quits? Or are you with me? We ride or die with our squads.
No. Yeah, you go. You just keep going. And that's not a terrible team. I mean, you just have struggled through some injuries. Higgins will come back and he'll be fine, I'm sure. And JT's just coming back and getting into his usual role. Bijan's, we're going to talk about Bijan in a little bit, but man, you can't control that. So I think you still have a solid team. Just go out there and set your lineup. You never know, right? Any week could go your way, and before you know, you might be at 500 pretty soon.
Sinker, I know you're a competitive guy. We played Halo together. We don't like to lose. I already know your answer, but go ahead, man.
I don't know, man. I'll just be honest with you, Lou. That team is trash, bro. You need to just give up right now. No, I'm just kidding. I'm just playing. Honestly, man, yeah, just play spoiler. But I don't know, man. I'm trying to think of what he could do. Like, maybe Higgins and Olave and Watson, they might have a little bit of value. You might be able to make some moves here. I do like Bijan and JT moving forward. I do think JT is a guy that I'm trying to get. I know Moss is still getting some work, but I think JT and Lou, this as a Colts guy. I think JT, they're going to get him going. It's only week 7 still. Come playoff time, that this guy could, straight up win people leagues. So I don't know, man. It's tough at 1-6, but in a 14-man league, but it just depends, man. It depends how many games out of the playoffs. If it's 2-3 games, if you could string in some lucky wins or something like that, you're still right there. So maybe try to make some moves, see if you can get some value for the names of like Higgins, Olave, and even Watson, man, and just see if you could get some guys that are going to help win you games right now, and then worry about next week when that comes. So.
For sure. P-Mug's chiming in. I'm 1-6 too. We got this. Keep going. Till the wheels fall off. Apparently we have a caller. Thanks for calling. Let's take it. Sure, I'm anonymous, so ready to hang up for any funny business thinker. Perm ban some idiots, but I'm sure it's a nice person.
Caller,
What's up, caller? Oh man, it's not coming through my audio. It's Joe from Boston.
Yeah, Marvin, can you hear?
Okay, no.
Sorry, man. They can't hear you. We have technical difficulties. I can answer your question though. What's up, man? I'll let them know what the question is.
Boss Sinker's on the phone. Bring up
Who-
some more chats. 3 and 4 in both leagues.
All right. Thank you, man. Zach Moss or Devontae Foreman? Absolutely.
My guy Joe. We'll get that fixed. Thanks for calling in again, man. Sorry, this is the first time that's ever happened. Whatever. You're the man, Joe. We won your league last year. I'll never forget that. One of my proudest moments. Greg and I, we talk about that. We're stoked on that. So it was Zach Moss,
Or Devontae Foreman. Did you catch that?
Deontay Foreman, right?
I'm playing Devontae Foreman, honestly. I'm gonna keep
Yeah.
riding.
We just talked about Taylor, right? We just talked how he went from 6 carries to 8 carries to 18 carries. Had a nice game against a good Cleveland defense. 75 yards in the score. You'll take it. Zach Moss.
I mean, just to my point, like I just think that Jonathan Taylor's going to start slowly getting more and more involved. So right now, I think and we're going to talk about, I think, Foreman a little bit later in the show, but to me right now, he's the guy. And when someone, and I know he wasn't going into the season, but when someone has production like that and they're doing that good, I mean, think of yourself as a coach. Like you're not going to not try to give that guy the ball again. When people are hot, you give them the ball. So to me, it's Foreman, and I'm pretty comfortable going Foreman over Moss.
I'm with you there, man. We just talked about the rise on JT. Moss didn't have a great game. Deontay Foreman had a monster against the Raiders. So take it with a grain of salt. But I think I'm staying in the Flames after this guy had 30 something points. I'm not putting that on my bench. Chargers defense is beatable. We know that. It's a night game. And it's pretty easy for me. I'm staying in the Flames with Foreman. Marvin, who you taking? Zach Moss or Foreman?
Yeah, I agree with you guys. I think I'd go with Foreman here, just with JT on the rise. So I don't feel great about Foreman either necessarily. I mean, I think we'll talk about him later, like Singer said. But I think in this case, you just go with Foreman.
Yeah,
for sure. And Joe, sorry again, man, but we appreciate the love and we thank you for calling. Get that fixed for next week. I'm taking the number off the screen now. We got a text only show, exclusive. Let's go. Get right back into some of these questions. We got a waiver wire question. All right, the first waiver in my league, and Daryl Henderson is available. Do I use my number one waiver? First thing you do is tell your league to switch to Fab for next year because that's so old school. Get with the times. But I think, it's a thin week. He's going to have at least 3 more weeks. He looked good. McVay likes him because he can block, pass protect. We just said the Rams are way better. The Rams are better than anyone thought they would be. And Henderson looked good, and that offense is going to move the ball with, Stafford, Kupp, Puka, the GOAT. Yeah, I think at this point in the year with such a weak waiver wire and the shape of all running backs, use your number one waiver. Tell your league to switch to Fab. Your life will be changed. But pass this to Marvin. You using the number one waiver on Henderson? You're going to hold it.
Yeah, I'd use it on Henderson. Obviously, it depends on who else is there, but Henderson definitely deserves to be the number one waiver wire pick. he was still splitting snaps, but he still led the team in snap percentage, rush attempts, routes, targets, attempts inside the 5, all the good things that you want to see out of running back. And so because he was splitting, it's not quite Kyron Williams level of usage, but still very, very good. He was still a top 20 running back in usage value. He is going to be a productive guy, at least until Kyron comes back. And like you said, they trust him, right? And they signed him for a reason instead of using Zach Evans, who's been there for, since the start of the season. So they clearly want him involved. And if you can get a top 20 running back off waivers right now, I mean, that's so valuable with all these injuries. So yeah, definitely pick him up and put him in your lineup.
Yeah, for sure. Sinker, you agree? You burning the number 1 waiver on a starting running back? Once you put it that way, it's pretty easy.
Right. I mean, if he's available, absolutely. Marvin talked about it a little bit. Touches inside the 10-yard line. He got 100% of the work there. 15% target share. He ran all of the 2-minute drill with the offense, and that was his first week back on the team. So I expect, that to repeat and continue moving forward. If not, he might get even more work, and he might just be the guy. Absolutely. If you're not running fab and he's not taken, I mean, he's the guy I'm going to burn my pick on. Yeah, he is a starting running back in the league right now. And running backs it's a graveyard out there. So grab them while you can.
For sure. Congrats on getting a starting running back at this point in the year. Got Tommy Donuts. I lost him. Said something. I'm good. Is there anything sweeter than seeing one of your players like Pittman go off in the 4th quarter? Yeah, there is something sweeter, and it's when they go off the whole game. But yeah, if you had Michael Pittman and he saved you late, congratulations. But you'd like to see it all game instead of watching his score start low, and when he pops at the end, yeah, it's great. He got the points, but you'd rather it all game long. I'll talk for all of us on that one. We want as many points as possible. We're addicted to this. We need more, not just one big play at the end of the 4th. We want to see that all game long.
You want the Josh Downs?
Josh Downs?
Yeah, he's the guy there, man.
All right, let's get back into this. Let's get back into the mailbag. It's time to panic with Tua. Wasn't a great game for the Miami Dolphins. I was rooting for him against, the Eagles. Giants fan, kind of have to. Yeah, Tua, after so many monster games, start the year, stayed consistent most of the year. Had a stinker for fantasy, and it was in Philly against a great defense. I'm not panicking about Tua, man. Fire him up against the Patriots and watch him go for 350 yards and 4 scores. Ty Hill will have 2. Just watch it happen. No, don't panic with Tua. I'll save you the talk. Marvin, I'll let you talk about Tua. You panicking or you plugging in this quarterback on one of the best offenses in football, right?
Yeah, you gotta play him. I think it's just more so about understanding that this offense just relies so much on big plays. They don't pass the ball as much as you'd think, right? Because they rely on some of those big plays and the those deep plays. And so if they don't connect, Tua will have some of those lower scoring games. But on the flip side, the trade-off is, overall QB1 upside with some of those massive games. And so you plug him in, you live with the down weeks because when he does go off and Tyreek Hill goes for 200 yards and 2 touchdowns, he'll win you a week. So there's no worry on my end for sure.
Yeah, still the QB5 even after the stinker. From stinker to sinker, how you feeling about Tua?
Yeah, I mean, I feel fine about him. And, I think it's we should note too that Waddle left that game for a little bit too, so he was down a wide receiver for part of the game. And yeah, I agree with Marvin. I mean, sometimes when they get the run game going and everything starts connecting like that, it opens up a whole bunch of stuff. So, playing in Philly, that's a tough game. It's going to happen to everyone. It happens to you see Josh Allen have duds every once in a while. You see Mahomes have duds. So I'm not panicking on Tua. If you have Tua, just start him confidently.
For sure. That's an easy one. This one, not so easy. Devontae Smith has been frustrating this year. What should I do? My guy, a guy I'm high on, a guy I'm still high on. I love the offense. As I said before, I don't have the luxury to bench him for anyone. I'm not playing Rashee Rice over him. Sorry. Until maybe later in the year, sure. But as of right now, no. He's on the field. He hasn't been on the field. His lowest snap percentage was 94 week 5. This guy's on the field almost every damn play. The targets are there. It just hasn't been going his way. The last few weeks, he had that monster in week 2, solid game in week 4. But, last 3 weeks, you're not too happy with Devontae Smith, especially for where you drafted him. I know I'm not too happy with him, but you got to look at the offense. You got to look at the snaps. He's getting targets. A few bad drops a couple weeks ago against the Jets, which is rare form for Devontae Smith. He's in your starting lineups. He's going to have his huge games. 2 division games coming up. I'm predicting a monster in one of them, Washington and Dallas. He should be in your lineup for both of those games before his bye week, week 10. Then he gets Kansas City. That should be a very high-scoring game. I'm not worried. I'm a little worried, I should say, but I'm not panicking or I'm not trying to sell him. Devontae Smith's in my lineups, and as I said, you ride or die with the shit. You rock with your squad. I'm not even trying to trade him right now. I think those boom weeks are coming. You guys might feel different about it. Sinker, you feel different about it? You think those boom weeks are coming, or are you panicking on Devontae Smith?
No, I mean, I don't think I'm fully panicking on Devontae Smith. I mean, I think A.J. Brown is just such a stud, and he's, demanding so much of a target share, and he's getting open, and I think that plays a lot into that. But I still do think, opportunity down the road. I think A.J. Brown can get hurt, or A.J. Brown can get shut down, and I think you're going to see those Devontae Smith games still happen. I'm tempering my expectations on what I've got from him, but in week 6, he was, he had 26% target share. I think he had double-digit targets for sure. So I don't know. I'm not fully out on Devontae Smith, and I still think he has all the tools to get there and get it done. But yeah, just tempering expectations. And if you took him probably in the 3rd round, I mean, you probably don't have a choice. You're going to have to start him, but not much more to point out there. I mean, for me.
Yeah, it seems like since A.J. Brown started crying on the sidelines in that Vikings game week 2, they stopped giving my man Smith the ball after they fed him all game. So A.J. Brown, not too happy with you as someone who drafted Smith anywhere I could. Whatever, man. Whatever. Marvin, Devontae Smith, how you feeling about him rest of the way?
Yeah, I still like him as more of maybe a riskier wide receiver too. The volume is still there, where 22% target share, 31% area share, runs 99% of the routes. I mean, he's out there, he's running routes. The targets will come certain games, and in some cases, because you're playing with AJ Brown, it's just not going to be there, right? And that's fine. The concern here is that his target share is down from last year. So if you're kind of comparing to what he gave you last year, it's just not quite there. But you still can't bench him or anything like that. He'll have better weeks, and I wouldn't necessarily try to trade him away because I don't know if you'll get much for him. But it obviously depends on what's out there. But to me, I'm still comfortable starting him, and you kind of just have to, like you guys said, temper your expectations a little bit.
Let me ask you guys a question. Are you looking to trade for Devontae Smith? Like if you had an Adam Thielen or something like that, he's a guy that I think, production, he's old. It's going to, wheels are going to, it's just a little losing tread on the tires type guy. Like, are we trading for Devontae Smith? Are we just sitting with what we have? Like, where are you guys at with that?
If someone offered me Devontae Smith for Adam Thielen right now, I would accept it.
You would take Thielen?
No, I'd take Devontae Smith.
Okay.
Like if I had Adam Thielen and someone's like, oh, he's been balling to start the year, old reliable. Smith's been sucking. I'm smashing accept personally. Thielen's looked great, but I want Devontae Smith, man. And what's Thielen? Let me pull up Thielen.
I mean,
that's a good example. He's dude's been balling out. Wide receiver 7 right now. Yeah, I'm a betting man. I'm gonna bet that Devontae Smith finishes better than Adam Thielen the rest of the year. I know it's not too crazy, but he's the wide receiver 29 right now compared to the wide receiver 7, Adam Thielen. Smith's gonna start ascend to the flames, and Thielen's gonna cool off a little bit, in my personal opinion. I could be wrong because that was a great example to use, but that'd be a crazy trade. But yeah, I think I'm trying to get Smith. As I said, I'm ride or dying with my guys, and I think he's gonna have a great second half. We just talked about the snap percentage. Uh, yeah, I'm taking Smith, man. Sorry to get too into this, everyone, but Marvin, someone you would trade for? Is he someone you would trade for, or not really?
Yeah, I think I would, depending on what's being offered. I think if you can if you can swap Thielen with Smith, and on top of that, because I'd imagine Thielen's values is a lot higher than it's right now. If you can swap those two receivers and get something, not necessarily straight up, but if you can get like an upgrade at running back here, I'd do it, because I think you can play the value there a little bit and take advantage of Thielen's inflated value. There might be someone on your in your league that's looking at the fantasy points only, right, and saying, "Hey, Thielen's been great," where Smith's volume is there too, right? So I do think he'll bounce back. And so if you could upgrade at a different position and help you somewhere down the line at either tight end or at running back, I'd do that trade, because I do still believe in the upside for Smith.
Yeah, for sure, man. He definitely feels like the perfect buy low type of player, considering we know what he can be, how talented he is, the offense he plays for. Wide receiver 29, 75th overall, perfect buy low candidate. I'm personally trading for him. Sinker, it was your question, but are you going to trade for him?
I don't know. It's tough. I mean, it just depends where you're at, man. If like what Thielen was taken where, I think like the 7th, 8th round, right? Like that's
later.
So it's like it's one of those things. Like if you got him and you also hit on other guys and you have the ability to deal an Adam Thielen to get ready for the playoffs, I don't hate it. But yeah, I think with what Marvin said, packaging him with someone else. But yeah, we got, Nido in the chat talking about he sold Smith for Thielen and he's winning games. It's hard when a guy like Adam Thielen, I know his age, but he's winning you games, man. It's hard to get rid of that. So I don't know. That was a good example, and I don't even know the answer to it.
Yeah, for sure. It was a great trade so far. Still a lot of football left, but congrats on those wins, man. It's been working out for you so far. We got a whole lot of football to play, so we'll see. Devontae Smith, biggest question mark, and one of the biggest question marks of fantasy football right now. Speaking of question marks, anyone watch that Falcons game? Bijan Robinson, the infamous headache. Does he have a headache? What a nightmare!
Yeah, man.
What a nightmare for Bijan owners. I don't have any shares of him this year, but I felt the pain. 1 carry, 3 yards. That's the stat line. 0.3. The Atlanta Falcons are being investigated by the NFL right now for how they handled his health, because he had a headache or something. He was feeling weird, and he went out there and just gave him 1 carry. We didn't hear anything about it, right? Till after the fact. So this is one of the weirdest things I've seen in a while in fantasy, in football. Like, Atlanta didn't say a word, gave the guy 1 carry. This is their, top 10 selection, superstar running back. What the hell happened, Marvin?
Yeah, I guess we won't ever know, right? They're calling it a quote unquote illness, and so we'll run with that and say that's what it is. Whether it was, them punishing him for something that happened pre-game, who knows, right? It's just, it is what it is, and I lost one of my matchups because I had him in my lineup. It just, it's not fun for sure having him in there give you 0 points, but I still think if it's truly just the illness, or if hopefully they don't continue to bench him or anything, if that's what they did. He's still the guy, right? I know everyone's talking about Algier. There's a little bit of buzz like, oh, he's not getting the full workload, but that was always the case. When you're in the most run-heavy team, it doesn't matter, because there's plenty of opportunities to go around. He's still, more of like a high-end RB2 when it comes to usage, but he's also running a bunch of routes, 72% route participation. That's only second to CMC before this game. right? And that his numbers will come down, but even then he's still RB3 in that metric. So he's running a bunch of routes, he's getting opportunities in as a rusher too. He's still going to be fine, and you can plug him in this week again, and he'll be there as long as there's nothing going on in the background there with the Falcons. Who knows? But assuming everything's fine, he'll be right back to being an RB2, RB1. So
I agree. Cordell Patterson, 10 carries. Have to throw his name in there. Yeah, have to throw his name in there too.
yeah,
Player that won't go away. Solid career for Cordell, man. I gotta give him credit though. Sinker, anything to add on this Bijan situation? It was definitely a weird one.
Yeah, man. I'll tell you what went wrong with Bijan. It is that he got drafted by Arthur Smith and the Falcons. That's what went with Bijan.
Dang.
I mean, this dude, come on. This guy is highlight reel after highlight reel, and we just got to get Cordell Patterson going, man. And you know what? We got to scheme Patterson into the game. We got to get Patterson the ball. It's
He's the Joker position.
I get it. I'm not an NFL coach. I'm just a guy who talks about fantasy football. But I mean, come on, Bijan is a stud, man. If this guy was getting all the work, like he would, I feel like they'd be winning more games. But I don't know. Yeah, last week that's insane that nothing was reported about it. And you know what? I lost a ton of money in DraftKings playing this guy because nothing was reported on it. And then I don't know. It's pretty sketchy. I think they knew and they didn't say anything. So I'm glad that they're getting, looked into about this. If he wasn't feeling well, it should have been on the injury report in the morning.
Yeah,
but
for sure.
I don't know. Is Bijan a guy you guys are looking to try to acquire moving forward? Like, where are you guys at with Bijan? Because, I know the Bijan owners are after last week or that might have been like they're fed up. They're ready to get rid of him. So just curious if you guys are trying to buy him, if you're just, holding on to him, if you have him, like where are you guys at with this?
I'll buy him.
If there's an opportunity to buy, 100%. If there's an opportunity to buy, I'm taking advantage of that because, like you said, he's a stud, and even if this is his baseline, like the production he's getting now, that's just fine. But imagine if something changes here. I don't know from a coaching standpoint, or if they, Algier misses a couple games, he's going to have an absolutely ridiculous week. Because he'd be the RB1 if he got the usage. It just hasn't been there. And it's like you said, it's ridiculous.
Yeah,
for sure.
That's where I am.
Jonathan, back to your question before about Ramondre. Try to package another player with Ramondre and go get Bijan. I think that's a money move. If the owner accepts that, I'm taking Bijan all day. I know that was a weird. Maybe he did have a horrible headache, and that's just the whole thing. Like he thought he could go. He took a carry. He's like, I can't go. And that's that. We don't know. We'll never know. They drafted this guy high. They're going to use him. I know that's hard to believe with Arthur Smith, but Bijan's going to be fine, in my opinion, moving forward. They're saving Bijan for nothing. Unleash him like Breece Hall. Let's go, Breece Hall. All right, Sinker, this is for you. Is it officially Rashee Rice season? How you feeling about this kid in Kansas City, man? Is he going to be a league winner? We're watching the trends like the stock market. He's definitely on his way up.
Yeah, man. I think Rashee Rice is the wide receiver to own here in Kansas City. And I say wide receiver to own. I still think as long as Kelsey is on the field and healthy, the offense flows through Kelsey. He's going to always have the higher target share. He's always going to be the guy. So I think, is it officially Rashee Rice season? I don't know if we're there yet. I think, historically, rookies can break out in the second half of the season. He's passing the eye test. He's definitely, I think, Mahomes' favorite wide receiver target. Even with Hardman coming in, Hardman's going to be more of like a gadget goal line guy. You saw him already make an impact on special teams. That's his role. I'm not worried about Hardman. I wouldn't advise anyone to go out and get Hardman. I like what I see from Rashee Rice, but I still definitely think it's Travis Kelce's offense. And I think he proved that last week that, he's getting older, but he's still got the juice, man. And Kelce is going to be the guy moving forward. I do like Rashee Rice. Obviously, he's probably rostered in every league by now. He's available. He's definitely a good stash, but
66%.
Yeah, anytime you can get a guy tied to Patrick Mahomes, and they're starting to connect and starting to get going. And you're seeing the snap count get higher each week and the target share get there. He has multiple touchdowns that he's, got stopped on the 1 yard line. He could be having a bigger season than he is right now. I do like Rashee Rice a lot, but I just want to let everyone know, don't expect this guy to, it's Kelsey still, man. I mean, that's really what I'm trying to get at.
Yeah, it's Kelsey as far as the consistent big games come, but there's definitely an opportunity where this guy has some monster weeks down the stretch. And 66% owned on, Pat Mahomes' favorite new receiver is way too low for me. That's on Sleeper, and you have to go scoop this guy up and have him. Some leagues you might have to play him, but definitely have him chill on your bench. And he's checking all the boxes on like that second half kind of breakout for a rookie receiver for me. And who's throwing him the ball? Best in the league. So yeah, let's mark this Rashee Rice season. I think he's gonna have a great second half and be a potential league winner for you moving forward. That 66% roster needs to go up. Go check your waiver wires, your free agencies in the morning, whatever. But Marvin, how you feeling about Rashee Rice? I know you're a dynasty guy. I'm not too sure if you were like high on him coming out of college, or how you feeling about him now after what you've seen on the field with Patty Mahomes?
Yeah, I don't think I was the highest on him just because there were other receivers that I just liked in this class a little more. Factor draft capital, production, all that stuff. But it doesn't change that he's with, a really good offense. But to me, I'd still temper my expectations a little bit. I think when you look at the numbers, he had a career high 65% route participation. So routes are going up, snaps are going up. That's all good. Target share was only 15%. And so when you look at expected fantasy points, a metric I love to use it because it shows the fantasy value based on the usage he's receiving. And Rice has been outside the top 40 in all but one game. And that's even in week 7, right? He scored the touchdown, so everyone sees that and the fantasy points that are there, but the volume isn't necessarily there because of Travis Kelce. And what's completely hilarious is that McCole Hardman actually led the team in targets per route run. So yeah, go figure, right? Of course, he's going to be the guy that leads them in that in week 7. But I still think he's Rice is the guy you want to roster on this offense as a wide receiver. But I still think the upside is capped until we see a little more of those higher snap percentage, higher routes, maybe higher targets per route run. Until we see that, I think you still just hold on to him. And from a dynasty standpoint, he's on your roster. You're not going to trade him. You're not going to drop him. You can't. But I think for redraft, you still just hold on and don't overreact too much on a week 7, touchdown that really saved his fantasy week, in my opinion.
Yeah.
Agreed. The extra 6 points for sure, but he's been a solid flex for like desperation, like over 10 points the last. That's all you can really ask for, like a solid desperation flex for bye weeks. Yeah, Rashee Rice season for me, but wait and see. Keep him on the bench. Speaking of benching, how about dropping? Can I drop Calvin Ridley? No, I wouldn't drop Calvin Ridley, man. Yeah, it sucks for where you took him. 1 catch, 4 targets, 1 catch, 5 yards. That's your round 3 receiver, and it stings. You could bench him. You could certainly bench him, but I wouldn't cut him just yet. I mean, things could get going for him. We saw a few big weeks from him. Week 1 and week 5. They are possible. You're not dropping him. It sucks. I have him in some leagues too. I'm okay with you benching him, but please do not drop him. Do you guys agree with me, Sinker?
Yeah, I'm not dropping Calvin Ridley by any means. He still, I think, has the ability to have those smash games. He's getting the first look in the offense. So Trevor Lawrence is looking at him. He's trying to get him the ball. He's going elsewhere, obviously to Christian Kirk. The one thing I am concerned is when Zay Jones comes back, how does this fit all into everything, right? Is that going to affect Calvin Ridley more? Like he's already not getting there with Christian Kirk. So you can't drop Calvin Ridley, but at this point, I think he's worth, benching until you see something. And I will take a small victory lap and say I said Calvin Ridley would be a bust, but that's all I got to say.
Yeah, you did say that. And I did say there's a possibility Kirk could be better. as right now, it looks like that's the case as far as fantasy. Wide receiver 37 on the year. Just hasn't been great. Besides those 2 weeks, has not been great. Can definitely bench him. The week you bench him is the week he goes for 30. You know how fantasy football works by now, but that's on you. Marvin, how you feeling about Ridley? I know you're not dropping him, but thoughts on
Yeah.
him?
Yeah, 100%. You can't drop him. I mean, he still leads the team in routes. He still leads them in depth of targets. So the high value targets are going to be there. 21% target share. I mean, that's not going to be maybe the wide receiver one performance that we thought we had, or a year that we had when he came out in week one and absolutely crushed it. But he still will have his games. I think it's just a little more matchup dependent. I think to you guys' point, Kirk has taken a little more of the opportunities there than we thought. And Kirk's a good wide receiver, right? So he'll command some of those targets as well. But he's still in an offense that is very balanced, right? They're running with Travis Etienne, but they're still throwing the ball at a decent rate. They're not super run heavy, so opportunities will be there. And one thing to keep in mind too, the Jags have the 9th easiest schedule for fantasy wide receivers going forward. So that could be a Kirk thing as well, but I do think it's a Ridley a reason to invest in Ridley or hold on to him. So if you can bench him and you have that luxury, do it. But I still think there are better days ahead, even though he just has been disappointing since week one.
Put you there, man. Greg, our buddy Greg, chiming in. What's up, gents? Missed the show. Can't wait for the replay. Just want to give some love to my dude Marvin before you wrap up. One of my faves in the industry. Mine too, Greg. We'll have you on. I'm not sure. It's next week, in a couple weeks. Can't wait to have you on, like old times. And some kind words from one of the best, Marvin. And we're so happy to have him on again. Hopefully not the last time. It's always a pleasure to have you, brother.
Yeah, good to hear from you, Greg.
For sure. Nothing but love for Greg, man. Miss you. We're a little bit over. You have time for a couple more?
Let's do it.
Yeah. Let's do it. We said we talk about this guy, so we can't leave the show without talking about him, unfortunately. I was ready to skip over it, but we're for the people here. Is Deontay Foreman. Greg, I hope you're still here for this one. Deontay Foreman, the back to own in Chicago. Gross. As we said, monster game for Foreman. Got 16 carries, 89 yards, 2 tutties, 3 receptions for 31 yards, a third tutty. What a game. Is he the back to own Chicago? I don't know. I mean, after last week, yeah, against the Raiders, it sure looks like it. But, Herbert's on IR. He'll be back eventually. Johnson, what's the timetable on Johnson's injury?
I think he's coming back this week, right? I think it was
just
a concussion, and I say it was a concussion, and he shouldn't have. It was surprising when he was out, I think, for a second game. So I think he'll be back this week.
Yeah, he'll be back, but it might be a hot hand scenario, and right now Foreman's got the hot hand. So, back to own in Chicago, at least for the next week or two, in my opinion, after that game. They're not going to completely take him off the field after he scored 3 touchdowns for him. So, yeah, as of right now, he's the back to own in Chicago, but I'm not saying go out and make a crazy trade for him with Herbert coming back eventually and Johnson most likely coming back this week. You agree? You agree, Sinker?
Yeah, I mean, as I mentioned earlier, I tend to go and let me back it a little bit. I love Roschon Johnson moving forward. I think his pass protection, I love him as a prospect. I really thought with the Herbert injury, that would be his time to get out. It sucks he got a concussion. But I also believe that after, like I mentioned with Devontae Ford, with his production and the way that he handled last weekend, I just think it's hard for the coaching staff to get away from him. So I think you're going to definitely see that at least next game. They'll probably move Roschon in a little bit, but I don't know. It's hard. He balled out, man. And even if it was just goal line scoring those touchdowns, man, he looked good. So it's hard to go away from a guy like that. If he's hot, I think they keep it going. And that's just my take. I like to, ride with the hot hand type guy in fantasy. But, I'm not against you if you think Roschon's the guy moving forward. Because as a prospect going in this year, I was super high on him, and I still am.
And Greg's chiming in as a Bears fan. He is a back to own in Chicago. That's hilarious. Yeah, who knows? Great week. I'm with you on staying in the Flames. You might burn you, but you made a great logical choice after that big week last week. Marvin, how do you feel about Foreman and the rest of? Yeah, we'll talk about the whole backfield. It's kind of a mess.
Yeah, it's hard to not start him after that week 7, right? Really dominant game. But even just thinking as the Chicago Bears, who are currently, still in a little bit of a rebuild, right? Justin Fields is injured. Do you think about their running back situation? I think Herbert is still under contract next year, if I remember right. But Foreman's on a 1-year deal, and Roshan's the guy that they have under contract for the longest, right? He's the youngest guy too. It just makes sense to give him the opportunities to be the RB1 for that team and see what you have, right? Because what you want to do, especially in a what I still believe is a rebuild season, I think they have some solid pieces there, is to figure out if the pieces you have are for the long term, right? And part of the long term plan. And the only way to do that is, it's a perfect situation that it's an open backfield. Just plug them in there and see what you got. And so that's why I think Roshan will still have a role. I think you roster Foreman and you pick him up because there's the chance that he holds on to this. But I think Roshan might factor in here because if they have to figure out if he's the guy for them going forward as a day 3 pick, because if he isn't, they're just going to draft a new guy next year. So you got to figure that out now. And I think there's probably going to be games where they give Roshan the chance to be the guy.
For sure. Good stuff. Good stuff. We'll do one more and then wrap this thing up, boys. This one was a late one on Instagram from Jay Willie, and it's a damn hard one. Rank JSN, Flowers, and Addison rest of season. How do you not put Addison at 1 after yesterday? Even with Jefferson there, he was getting that love from Kirk Cousins. I think I rank them in reverse order of how you listed them for this year. This is not Dynasty. This is rest of season. I think I go Addison, Flowers, JSN. I'm cool with having any one of these guys right now for the rest of the season. I'm feeling pretty good about it moving forward. These are 3 extremely talented rookies who are getting more and more involved. And it's hard. This is a very hard question and a great one. So thanks for typing this one in. It's Addison, Flowers, and JSN for me. Pass this to you, Sinker.
Yeah, I probably tend to agree. Obviously with JJ coming back, I think that's going to affect Addison a little bit. But what you saw last night it's great, man. If you drafted Addison, what you got last night it's huge. I really like Zay Flowers moving forward. I think he's one of those guys that's just like waiting to explode. He's getting the targets. The touchdowns aren't there yet. He had a couple drop issues. I don't know. I'll keep it simple and agree with you. I'll go Addison, Flowers, JSN.
Yeah, and Addison did leave the game like at the end, but like early reports are saying that they're just like cramps.
It's just
not too much to worry about. So I'm not putting too much into that. Addison's been balling. He looks like a baller. He passes the eye test. Kirk Cousins loves him. All these guys are gonna have great second halves, in my opinion. Marvin, last question of the day. Who do you like the best, and how do you rank these 3?
Yeah, I think it's a little tough because it didn't be easy, first of all, if we knew Justin Jefferson was potentially out for the rest of the year. With him coming back, it kind of changes things a little bit. At this point, with what we know, based on what we've seen, I think I'd do exactly what you guys said. Addison, number 1, Flowers 2, JSN 3. And you look at JSN's last game, I think a lot of that had to do with the matchup. That was one of the most favorable matchups to slot receivers. He took advantage of that, and Metcalf was out too, right? So there's just a little more competition there. And Addison, he was in my opinion, one of the best receivers in this class. In my opinion, widely underrated because everyone was looking at either JSN or Quentin Johnston or even Flowers. But I think Addison was right up there with them, potentially even the wide receiver one. We're seeing that upside now. So I'm excited to see him get his opportunities to crush it and the way he had yesterday. And so that being said, I think Flowers long-term probably is the safer pick because of the volume that's there. He's been, it's still a somewhat run-heavy team with Lamar, but when you're averaging, nearly 30% of the targets and the air yards, that's going to translate to volume eventually. It just hasn't come with touchdowns. So I think Flowers is still a really solid pick, but I'll go with Addison and just see how far they can go. And one more thing here, one thing to keep in mind with him: when Jefferson was in the lineup, he was actually third in routes run for some reason, behind behind Jefferson, and for some reason I'm blanking on their wide receiver 3.
Osborne.
Yeah, exactly. See, that's just really how it is. That's he should be receiving the second most routes, and I think going forward, Addison will be that wide receiver 2 with JJ there, and so with those routes increasing with what we've seen, I think they just have to get him involved. So even with JJ back, I think there's still some upside there and some production to be had with Addison.
For sure, man. And you mentioned, I'm sorry to, throw you off guard here, but you mentioned Quentin Johnston. I just curious on your thoughts on him, man. Because it hasn't been great. Even after Mike Williams injury, everyone thought he'd be more and more involved, and it hasn't been great. Are you cutting him? Are you still holding him on your bench in redraft, or are you just letting somebody else take that risk at this point, or take that gamble, or waste a bench spot at this point?
Yeah, it's tough. Johnston he's just not producing. I think it's been a 7% target share so far in 6 games. We haven't seen the numbers go up. It's funny you mentioned because I'm writing about him actually this evening, and so that'll come out in an article tomorrow. But from a dynasty perspective, even then, I think you still from a redraft perspective you can drop him. I think from a dynasty perspective you still hold him unless you can get like a first round pick in return. But I don't think you're just going to get that because he's disappointed. No one's going to pay up for him. But his route participation has come up. Obviously, with Mike Williams injured for the rest of the year, and he's still leading the Chargers in average depth of target. I think that's part of the problem is because they're really using him as a deep threat, and those are harder targets to connect with. If they're not using him on intermediate and short targets, using some of his yak ability that we saw in college, he's just not going to produce, and that's tough, right? But I think that's the reality that we have for his rookie year. In redraft leagues, I think you're probably safe to drop him, and it's even though you invested in him and there's a lot of upside, I think we just have to, like you guys said, always shift with what we're seeing and adapt to what the coaches are doing and what the team is doing. And at this point, I think it's just Keenan Allen in that offense and Austin Eckler that you can really trust.
I agree, man. I can't wait to read that article. I love what you do for the industry, and everyone else, definitely go check out Marvin's work. Writes for the Fantasy Footballers, but don't let me say it, Marvin. Take the next 30 seconds, minute or so, let the people know what you're about, where they can find you, what you do for the industry, all that good stuff.
Yeah, no, I appreciate you guys having me. This was a fun hour, just flew by, and that just tells you how much fun this was. But yeah, you guys can find all my work on Twitter or X, whatever you want to call it, at @FF_Marvin E. I have 2 articles coming out every week. So one of them is a Dynasty article that looks at college prospects, looks at the Dynasty landscape, guys ranking up or down. And as you can imagine, Johnston's probably on the downward trend, and so I'll write about him there. Second article is about fantasy usage and expected points. So that's more of it's a DFS article. It looks at matchups. It looks at which wide receivers, running backs, tight ends are improving in usage and whatnot. And so it's just a slightly different view than Dynasty. And so it's kind of a mix of both for me every week. So yeah, stay tuned for that. But like I said, I appreciate you guys for having me. Love this show. Love what you guys do. And man, you guys need to get me on again when Greg's here and have all 4 of us here because Greg was awesome too. So I appreciate you guys for having me again because this is super fun.
I'm sure he would not mind if we had you on the 1 week he's coming on with us. So we could try to set it up, see if our schedules align and play it by ear. But thanks for all you do for the industry, man. It's been a pleasure to have you on. We're definitely gonna invite you back on. Always a fun time. But we're out of time. So for Marvin Elequin, for Sinker, I'm Sanchi Value. This is Fantasy Fanline. We'll see you next week. Peace.